So I think the moment is here for the DSC Prize for South Asian Literature. As many of you know, it celebrates the diversity of South Asian writing, but what makes it unique is that it's open to authors from all around the globe, so long as the subject matter concerns South Asia and its people, and it also allows for translations to be entered, so long as there's a translation in English. So without anything further, I'd really like to invite your Master of Ceremonies for the evening. Please welcome your Master of Ceremonies, one of India's most famous international actors, the man, the villain who battled James Bond himself. He's a voting member of the Oscar Academy, and he's also a Knight of the Italian Republic, the one and only Kabir Bedi.
Chief guest Sharmila Tagore, DSC Chairman H.S. Narulaji, Directors of the Festival William Dalrymple and Namita Gokhale, members of the jury, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Here on the lawns of this beautiful Diggi Palace, in India's historic city of Jaipur, it is our love of words and of writers who use them so elegantly in South Asian fiction that brings us together this evening. We are honored by the presence of many great writers among us, publishers and editors, and also all you avid readers. It is you who make the world of books immortal. As Edward Thorndike said, colors fade, temples crumble, empires fall, but wise words endure forever. So a very warm welcome to the award ceremony to announce the winner of the prestigious 2013 DSC Prize for South Asian Literature. This award honors the best writing about South Asia. It celebrates its multicultural writings and translations in English with a prize of $50,000. It is the most coveted award for South Asian writing. This award ceremony is being held in conjunction with the DSC Jaipur Literature Festival, which, as you all know, is the most exciting and respected literary extravaganza in the entire Asia-Pacific region. And for the last 5 years, DSC Limited has been the principal sponsor of the Jaipur Literature Festival. So to begin the evening, I invite on stage Surina Narula and Manhat Narula, who are founders of the DSC Prize for South Asian Literature. Surina and Manhat, please come on stage. Surina and Manhat, are you missing in action? You can't be. Here you are. And to give the welcome address, I call on the chairman of DSC Limited, the DSC Group, Chairman H.S. Narula. H.S., we need you on stage. Chairman, sir, we need you to say a few words to all of us. All the support you've given the festival and the award. Most welcome.
Everyone, welcome. It's once again my privilege to be participating in the award ceremony of the DSC Prize for Literature. As I was getting ready to come in here, very distinguished person said to me, why are there so many controversies about this festival? So I told him, I mean, inside you have been to sessions, you see the people. Do you see any controversies on their faces? He said, yeah, you are right, it's not. But then one of the shortlisted authors, he had a couple of policemen around him because there's some controversy around him. So he says, look at this. I said, but aren't they calm? So he said, what do you compare this with? And I told him, in the Hindu mythology, you have the Samundar Manthan. Those of you who know it. And what comes out of it is that there's a continuous churning of different ideas, different opinions, which people come and express here, and then it churns out into something new. So what to the outside world appears like a controversy is a very healthy debate going on inside. All I want to do is leave the mic to you for a long time, but as being chairman of the company, I must thank Namita Gokhale and Molshri Lal, members of the steering committee for DSC Prize, and also Sanjoy Roy, the festival team for putting the event together, and my special thanks to the jury which has worked on this so hard over the last several months to come out with the winner, which I don't know as yet, I promise you that. Thank you.
Chairman Narula's DSC Group has businesses across 4 continents, but what we laud today is DSC Group's unwavering commitment to the growth of literature, especially South Asian literature. So thank you all, and please remain with us on stage as we call the other participants on. A wag once said that the worst thing about new books is that they prevent us from reading the old books. But new books are always upon us, and selecting the best was the difficult job of these distinguished luminaries who worked so diligently as the jury of the DSC Prize, a truly great international jury. I request them to please come on stage one by one as I call out their names. One is Muniza Shamsi, a Pakistani writer and critic. Muniza, please come on stage. She's edited 3 anthologies of Pakistani English literature, including the award-winning And the World Changed, Contemporary Stories by Pakistani Women. She lives in Karachi and is the managing editor of a work in progress, The Oxford Companion to the Literature of Pakistan. Please join us. Rick, a big hand for Muniza, please. Thank you. Rick Simonson has worked at the Seattle's Elliott Bay Book Company, one of America's leading independent bookstores since 1976. He co-directs its internationally renowned author reading program, which presents over 400 authors annually, including many from South Asia. Thank you. Suvani Singh. She is the festival director of the Kathmandu Literary Jatra, an international literature festival in Nepal, and she runs a bookshop called Quixote's Cove, through which she organizes and manages many literary arts events in Kathmandu. She often finds herself taking the role of a literary agent and is toying with the idea of formalizing it herself. Eleanor O'Keefe, who was also co-director of the Jaipur Literature Festival in earlier years, is sadly not able to join us or her fellow jurors today, but she's also been co-director of the Shakespeare and Company Festival in Paris and now lives in London. K. Sachidanandan is the distinguished chairperson of our jury. He's a modern Indian poet, critic, editor, translator, academic, and literary organizer. He's authored 21 collections of poetry, 16 books of translation of world poetry, 21 works of literary criticism in Malayalam and English, and won 25 awards for his literary contributions. Beyond that, he's been bestowed with the knighthood of merit by the Italian government, and his collections of poetry have appeared in 18 languages. So a big hand for our chairman. I would now like to ask the chairman of the jury to please address us. Sir, would you say a few words?
Distinguished representatives of the DSC, organizers of the Jaipur Literary Festival, dear fellow jurors, friends, lovers of literature. I'll have a few words about DSC Prize in general and the selection process through which we arrived at the final winner. DSC Prize has attained the status of a premier literary prize in Asia, as it got judged through a long process of informed discussion, debate, and filtering, and is easily one of the most credible and coveted awards in the area of fiction on South Asia, originally written in or translated into English, whatever the country and language of origin. We, the members of the jury, were excited by the unprecedented response the call for submissions had received from publishers, bringing to us a total of 81 books from around the world. We also noted with delight that the authors came from different linguistic and cultural backgrounds and showed alike a deep understanding of life in South Asia in all its beauty and turbulence, its conflicts and paradoxes, its bleeding wounds and its undying dreams. The books covered a very wide range of experiences of the city and the country, of exile, of the agonies inflicted by religious fanaticism, of love and estrangement, of the urban underworld of drugs and prostitution, of the plight of the minorities and the marginalized populations in Asian countries, of slavery and colonialism, of financial and bureaucratic corruption, of the cant and snobbery of the neo-rich, of madness in the family, of being saints, of being sinners. The values we were looking for in the works were many: novelty of theme, freshness of the narrative strategies, as well as the newness of idiom, insights into the life of the region, both social and psychological, the contribution the work makes to the genre of the novel in general. And we came across several works which had one or all of these qualities. They were charmingly diverse in their theme and treatment, and well aware of the political, cultural, and psychological dimensions of life in the societies and people they were dealing with, making our reading a rich, educative, and aesthetic experience. To begin with, each of us prepared our own long list, which had many works in common, and where we differed, we arrived at a consensus through genial mutual consultation, thus arriving at a final long list of 16 books that showcase the richness and variety of fiction written around the life of South Asians or people of South Asian origin within and outside their own countries. The widely welcomed long list was announced in a graceful function in Delhi on 16th October 2012. But we, the members of the jury, met for the first time in London on 19th November 2012. Each of us had come with our own shortlist of 5. Suvani Singh, who could not make it to London, had sent her list. We also had short notes on the books we chose and why we thought they deserved to be in the shortlist. It was not easy to choose the books for the shortlist despite the norms we strictly followed. There were many books of almost equal merit, as it is natural, demanding more intense discussions and more stringent standards. In the end, we came up with 6 books in the shortlist, which was announced in a colorful function in London on 20th November. Both the members of the jury read the excerpts from the shortlisted works. The deliberations continued, and we finally met to choose the winner yesterday, 24th January 2013. The one member, Eleanor Coffey, who could not make it to Jaipur, had sent her list of preferences. After a serious debate on every aspect of the 6 shortlisted books, we chose the DSC Prize winner for 2013, which will be announced here in a few minutes. It was indeed a pleasure to work with my colleagues Rick Simonson, Eleanor, Munisa and Suvani, as I found during the selection process that we share a lot in terms of literary taste, sensibility, attitude, and outlook, even when we disagreed about the eligibility of one book or the other for inclusion in the long list and the short list, and also to decide the winner. I thank all of them for having made the whole process so enjoyable. I also thank Bashop Day, Namita Gokhale, Manasri Lal, all those from the DSC team, and the whole efficient team which worked behind the prize, and also the print and visual and electronic media, whose cooperation has been crucial to the successful completion of the selection process and the publicity for the prize. And thank you all for being here to share the excitement of this beautiful evening. Thank you.
We will now see a 2-minute audiovisual on the literary initiatives of the DSC group. Roll the AV, please. I've had the pleasure of presenting and conducting the DSC prize ceremony since its inception, and I must say that the waves of this award that ripple across the world have gotten bigger each year and brought greater and greater benefits to the authors that have won and been nominated. You know, whenever we read a book, we read it through the prism of our own experience. So, in a sense, a writer writes as many books as the number of people who read his books. But juries have to make decisions, and the process of elimination becomes inevitable. So let's take a look at the 6 great books that made it through the rigorous rounds to be shortlisted for this year's DSC Prize for South Asian Literature. Here are the names of the 6 finalists. The Wandering Falcon by Jameel Ahmed. The Good Muslim by Tahmima Anam. The Walls of Delhi by Uday Prakash, translated by Jason Grunenbaum. Our Lady of Alice Bhatti by Muhammad Hanif. Narcopolis by Jeet Thayal. And River of Smoke by Amitav Ghosh. Let's hear your appreciation for all 6 of them. Thank you. You know, Kathleen Norris, the American writer, said, just the knowledge that a good book is awaiting one at the end of a long day makes that day happier. So we thank all these writers for writing such good books and making days happier. I now would like to call on the authors one by one to talk about their books for 3 minutes each. Now, Jameel Ahmed, the author of The Wandering Falcon, cannot come on stage to speak of his work, but will be speaking to us from the front row seat. Jameel Ahmed, please speak to us for 3 minutes about your book. Could you give Jameel Sahab the microphone?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a tribesman, and I think not many people present here are from the tribes, but we have a bit of a tribe in each one of us. What I want to tell you is that this book of mine, the only one, and probably the last one, is a distillation of the sounds and the sights, the narratives, the experiences, the fragments of expressions on faces of how people deal with life in the tribal areas where I worked for more than 20 years. I lived with them, I worked with them. In a way, probably I worked for them. That is for them to judge. And I wanted really to express some images to dispel the conventional views about tribesmen as savage, unlettered, unthinking, brutal, against modernity, and willing to defy all systems to preserve a very primitive way of life. If I'm able to counter that in a small way, I think I will be very happy. I welcome all of you, and I just wish to narrate one particular image which I can share with you. I was, more than 50 years back, I was in a desert area where the first stories sit. And I received a report that there has been an accident on the border. A militia truck had, while coming down the hill, around a turn, hit somebody who had died of his injuries. I sent a word to the hills that the eldest boy, the eldest son, the heir of the man, should try and come and see me. More than a month later, a boy of about 16 walks into my office. He said, "You sent for me?" I said, "Yes." He identified himself. I pulled out my office drawer and took out a bundle of notes, counted them, and handed over a sum of 1,200 rupees to him, which was the compensation in the scale laid down by the government. He looked at the money, and I can tell you that the boy had patches on his clothes all over, not a 6-inch square without a patch. He said, "What is it for?" I said, "Your father died a death because of an accident, and the government has sanctioned this money." He looked at me. He said, I refused to make profit out of my father's death. And he walked out of the office, back 200 miles into the hills. I'm not being judgmental. Don't wish to compare your systems, my systems with the tribal systems. That judgment is for you to make. All I can say that the sense of honor, the sense of truthfulness, the sense of genuine, and sometimes heart-wrenching sort of honesty was visible to me in scores of incidents, which, may I add, probably judgmental, is more rare to find in feudal societies, in consumer capitalist societies, and any other alternative or competing collectives which are today visible to us. One last sentence I want to say to Mr. Narula. He was asked this question, he said, that what does this festival correspond to? I can say that my impression is that it corresponds to what is known for generations in Balochistan as Hal. When groups of people meet in the desert, they were without access to telephones, newspapers, radios, satellite imagery, whatever. They would sit down, light a fire, sit around the fire, prepare a meal, and then sing to each other about the happenings of the past 6 months. And what we have is, in a way, we can compare the Jaipur festival with the Balochi Hal. Thank you very much.
May I request Surina Nirula to please present Jameel Ahmed Saab a memento of appreciation, which will be given to all the finalists. Thank you for the appreciation. Tahmima Anam is not able to be with us today to talk about her book, The Good Muslim, but her publisher, Chiki Sarkar of Penguin India, is here to speak on her behalf. So please welcome Chiki Sarkar. Chiki Sarkar of Penguin India.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Before I begin, I want to just say that Tamima would have loved to have been here. She's not keeping very well, but I am going to be on the phone with her as soon as this ceremony is over. She's waiting to know the results with bated breath. Good Muslim is the follow-up to Tamima's first novel, but it's a very different novel, and it's a novel that asks big questions. Big questions that are political and human. It asks questions such as, what happens if the person you love most changes completely? How do you deal with it? Do you still love them? Is the love different? How and why does a modern man, a liberal secular man, how does he become a religious zealot? What happens to him? Why does he begin to believe what he does? How does a country find its feet after independence? How does it make itself? These are some of the large questions that the Good Muslim asks and answers. It tells the story of a brother and a sister. We saw them in her first book, A Golden Age. They were fighting in 1971, the battle for independence. And in this book, they've moved their separate ways. Maya has been a doctor in a village. She's found herself, she's become as she always was, a deeply feeling political woman. But her brother's changed completely. From the passionate, idealistic young freedom fighter, he's lost his wife, he has a young son, and in something of the grief, in something of the changing country, he's also become a hardline Muslim preacher. And Maya and Sohail clash, even though they are each other's, they're two, there is soul that's sort of split apart, their hearts that are split apart, they're intensely close. But suddenly in this new life, in this changing Bangladesh, they have to radically kind of begin to see each other anew. And this is what The Good Muslim is about. Tamima Aman is a writer who's deeply, deeply ambitious, but like all great novelists, she realizes that at the heart of a novel are great people, great characters, human stories and human dilemmas that all of us can understand. We've sometimes fallen out with people we love. There are people around us who've changed in ways that we can't understand. And she brings these great human, the greatest of human problems, but behind the backdrop of a changing Bangladesh, and has written this extraordinary, intense, deeply feeling and deeply thinking novel. Thank you.
I call on Surya to give Chiki a memento of appreciation for Tamima Anam, or Anam. A big hand for Tamima in her absence. I now call on Uday Prakashji to come on stage, along with his translator, Jason Grunnebaum, to talk about the walls of Delhi. They will speak for 3 minutes each. So please welcome Uday Prakashji and Jason Grunnebaum.
मैं हिंदी में ही बोलूँगा, क्योंकि उसी रचना के अनुवाद के साथ यह किताब दिल्ली की दीवार, जिसका अंग्रेजी में अनुवाद है वॉल्स ऑफ दिल्ली, DSC के शॉर्ट लिस्ट में है। अब मुझे ये समझ में नहीं आता कि मैं क्या कहूँ, क्योंकि इसमें 3 अलग नॉवेला हैं, लघु उपन्यास हैं, जो एक ही संग्रह में संकलित हैं, और तीनों बिल्कुल अलग अलग तरह की कहानियाँ हैं। मोहनदास, आप जानते होंगे, एक ऐसे व्यक्ति की कहानी है निचले तबके की, जिसके पहचान, जिसकी शिनाख्त, जिसकी अस्मिता, जिसको आइडेंटिटी कहा जाता है, वो छीन ली गई है, और उसको ये प्रमाणित करना है कि असली मोहनदास वह है, और एक दूसरा जो इम्पर्सोनेट कर रहा है, उसकी जगह पर उसके नाम से, उसकी अस्मिता के साथ कहीं है, वह नकली मोहनदास है, और वह प्रमाणित नहीं कर पाता कि असली कौन है और नकली कौन है। दूसरी कहानी दिल्ली की दीवार, जिसके शीर्षक से यह पुस्तक वॉल्स ऑफ दिल्ली ऑस्ट्रेलिया से प्रकाशित हुई है और शॉर्ट लिस्ट में है। वह एक ऐसी व्यक्ति कहानी है जो बहुत धोखे से एक दिल्ली की ही किसी जिम की दीवार में छुपी हुई एक ऐसे सुरंग को खोज लेता है, जिसमें अरबों करोड़ों रुपए हैं, और वो अरबों करोड़ों रुपए ब्लैक मनी के हैं, काला धन के हैं। और याद रखें, कहानी आज से लगभग 12 साल पहले लिखी गई थी, जब काला धन के बारे में इतना बड़ा अभियान नहीं चला था। और यह कहानी सिर्फ काला धन और भ्रष्टाचार के बारे में नहीं है, बल्कि एक ऐसे गरीब मनुष्य के बारे में है जो उस संपत्ति को पा करके एक बहुत ही त्रासद परिणति को पहुंचता है। तो एक तरह से आप देखें तो ये जो स्लम डॉग मिलियनेयर का जो एंटीडोट है, ये उसका दूसरा पहलू है, जहां ये माना जाता है कि चांस और लॉटरी और दूसरी चीज़ों से आदमी अमीर बन सकता है। यह कहानी प्रमाणित करती है कि वह अमीरी बहुत त्रासद होती है और ख़तरनाक परिणतियों की ओर ले जाती है। तीसरी कहानी मैंगो सेल, वह बहुत ही कठिन कहानी है। वो एक ऐसे बच्चे की कहानी है जो जन्म लेते ही उसको एक रोग हो जाता है, और वह रोग ऐसा है जिसका कोई नाम उसके पिता तो नहीं जानते, वो नरेटर भी नहीं जानता आपका कहानी का, जो मैं हूँ, तो उसको नाम देता है मैंगो सेल। अब इसको आप किसी मेडिकल डिक्शनरी में खोजेंगे कि कौन सा रोग है मैंगो सेल, तो आपको कहीं नहीं मिलेगा। लेकिन रोग ये है कि उस बच्चे का सिर उसके शरीर से बड़ा होता जाता है, लगातार बड़ा होता जाता है, और उसके साथ ही उसका सिर भी बड़ा होता जाता है, दिमाग बड़ा होता जाता है, और 9 साल की उम्र तक वह इतना वयस्क हो जाता है कि वह लगभग वो सारी चीज़ें जानता है दुनिया भर की और अपने आसपास की, जो एक बहुत ही, जिसको आप इंटेलेक्चुअल कहते हैं, वह जानता है। उसकी मृत्यु होती है। तो तीनों कहानियाँ अलग अलग तरह की कहानियाँ हैं, लेकिन ज़रूर है कि तीनों कहानियाँ उस व्यक्ति की कहानियाँ हैं और उस हाशिए पर रह रहे मनुष्य की कहानियाँ हैं जो इस देश की 77% आबादी का हिस्सा है। तो यही मैं कहना चाहता हूँ, और मैं आभारी हूँ। मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि हिंदी की ये रचनाएँ आज DSC के शॉर्ट लिस्ट में हैं, और इसका श्रेय मैं बहुत कुछ देता हूँ मेरे अनुवादक जेसन ग्रोनबाम को।
Thank you, Uday. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished members of the jury. I'd just like to say a few words about The Walls of Delhi. Should I wait? There are 3 stories in The Walls of Delhi. The first story, which is the title of the volume, is about a poor sweeper in Delhi who discovers a cache of black money, a huge trove of money behind a wall in a gym in Saket where he's sweeping. He uses this money, and of course it changes his life completely. And as Uday was saying, it's sort of an antidote to Slumdog Millionaire, where instead of the way that money can make somebody rich and in a wonderful way, of course the corrupting influences of the money are evident in the book. In the second story, Mohandas is a story of identity theft. A poor weaver is the first from his caste to go to college, and he is first in his class and expects to get a job, but unfortunately doesn't have the connections or the money to make the kind of donations that it requires to secure such a job. Finally, on the strength of his written exam and his physical test, he is offered a dream job as a depot supervisor in the Oriental coal mines. He's told to go home and wait for the contract, which of course never comes because his identity is stolen by another member of his village who reports to the coal mine and says, "I am Mohandas." So the story is a struggle of Mohandas to reclaim his identity from the identity thief. The third story in the book is called Mango Sill, which is about a remarkable young boy who's born in extraordinary circumstances to a couple that's very much in love, but who have had to endure quite a bit. This boy has a disease which has no name, it's undiagnosable, and they come to call it mango sill. The disease causes his head to grow bigger and bigger physically, while at the same time he's a bit of a savant and begins to know all sorts of amazing things about the world. The 3 stories add to, I think, an ongoing discussion that stretches across literature and film about the ways in which the forces of globalization and other changes in the fast-changing India are both changing certain things and not changing certain things. And I'm just very privileged to have had a part of this book, being Uday's translator. And in the same way that a book being translated enlarges the conversation of literature in the world, having the honor of being on the short list of such a distinguished prize hopefully also will encourage other translators to translate more from South Asian languages and languages from around the world. Thank you.
Surina will now present a memento of appreciation to Jason. Thank you, Uday Prakashji. Thank you, Jason. Muhammad Hanif could not be with us today, but he is represented by his publisher, Caroline Newbury of Random House, who will talk about Our Lady of Alice Bhatti. So, Caroline Newbury, please join us on stage and tell us about the book. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. And firstly, on behalf of Hanif, he wanted me to convey the fact that he's very sorry not to be here, not only this evening, but for the entire festival. He would have loved to attend, but sadly was unable to. Unfortunately for me, at this very moment, Hanif is actually one of Ransom House's sharpest and wittiest writers. Unfortunately, I am not, so I'm not going to be able to put his book across with the same humour and style that he would have done, but I will attempt to try and give you a little bit of an overview. For those of you who don't know, Hanif is a Pakistani writer. He is actually an ex-Air Force pilot and journalist who, with his debut book, A Case of Exploding Mangoes, established himself as somebody who was able to tell with a very dark comic humour and show Pakistan in all of its kind of glorious and, in many ways, not so glorious technicolor. The book for which he's nominated this evening, Our Lady of Alice Batty, is absolutely no exception to this. It's set in modern-day Karachi, and it's a rambunctious, it's a defiant, it's an irreverent novel, and in the words of one of my favourite reviews of the book, a deliciously wackadoodle novel, which is written in his trademark style and really holds a mirror up to a society that is marred by corruption, by violence, and by injustice. Social concerns are right at the heart of the novel, and it most explicitly in this one examines the plight of Pakistan's women and the entire culture's entrenched and yet sort of casual misogyny. The book itself tells the story of its eponymous heroine, Alice Batty. She's fresh out of prison, and she is a Catholic nurse who manages to wrangle herself a job at Karachi's Sacred Heart Hospital for all ailments, where, and quote, there was not a single day when she didn't see a woman shot or hacked, strangled or suffocated, poisoned or burnt, hanged or buried alive. She's a Catholic in an Islamic world, and with that comes its fair share of prejudices. And Alice is repeatedly ostracized either on account of her gender, or she's trapped also by the kind of the caste system. And then one day she meets an admirer, Teddy Butts, who is an ex-bodybuilder and also a member of a rather kind of shady and in fact violently corrupt gentleman's squad of police. Teddy is somebody who falls madly in love with Alice and stays so, unfortunately, only until he marries her. But despite everything that's kind of set against her, there's something kind of about Alice. She possesses unnerving gifts. She has these sorts of mysterious healing powers. Miracles kind of happen around her. A dead baby kind of comes back to life. And despite everything, she sort of triumphs through the novel. And this is kind of what Hanif does best. He creates these characters which are entirely contradictory. Alice is sort of both innocent and kind of worldly wise. Teddy is this absolutely kind of vicious thug that somehow you kind of absolutely root for. He manages to create these characters which he then sets against Karachi and Pakistan in kind of very dark kind of humour to give an amazing sense of place. In a sort of, he's been called a kind of modern day Manto, and in the same way that Rushdie kind of captures Bombay, Hanif's kind of deft and kind of really cutting works provide this unique and sort of darkly humorous sense of modern day Pakistani life. Thank you.
Serena, could you present this memento of appreciation to be given to Muhammad Hanif? A big hand for Muhammad Hanif in his absence. Thank you. Jeet Thayal, could you please come on stage and talk about your novel, Narcopolis? I can see a lot of people enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Thanks very much, Kabir. I'm just going to say a few words about my book, and then I will read a short section. It's a book that describes Bombay over 30 years by looking at its underbelly, by looking at the marginalized, the poor, the addicted, the deranged. And it uses as its frame a world of addiction and drugs. But I'm always disappointed when people describe this as a book about drugs, because I think the drugs are a way of looking at society. And in some ways, for me, this book really is a kind of a secret history of Bombay. Normally when we think about Bombay, we think about cinema, we think about money, we think about business, we think about the kind of industry that Bombay has become associated with. What we forget is that Bombay became the financial capital that it is today over 40 years at the beginning of the 18th century, between 1800 and 1840. And that happened because the British East India Company and a group of Parsi ship owners shipped thousands of chests of great quality opium to China. And that's what Bombay's fortunes were built on drugs, and during those 40 years. And which is why there's a section in my book, about a quarter of the book is set in China, because I didn't think that it would be right to write a history of, a kind of a secret history of Bombay concerning opium without mentioning the Chinese connection, the Chinese digression, which sounds a bit like a novel by Robert Ludlum. And I will now read a very short section. I'm going to read from the prologue, which is a sentence that runs for about 6.5 pages. And normally when I say this, I can see people's eyes glazing over, but I can't see your eyes. I'm just going to assume they are glazing. And I just want to reassure you, I won't be reading the entire prologue. Please don't worry. I'm only going to read a few lines. So don't be leaving in droves quite yet. Bombay, which obliterated its own history by changing its name and surgically altering its face, is the hero or heroine of this story. And since I'm the one who's telling it, and you don't know who I am, let me say that we'll get to the who of it, but not right now. Because now there's time enough not to hurry, to light the lamp and open the window to the moon and take a moment to dream of a great and broken city. Because when the day starts its business, I'll have to stop. These are nighttime tales that vanish in sunlight like vampire dust. Wait now. Light me up so we do this right. Yes, hold me steady to the lamp. Hold, hold. Good. A slow pull to start with, to draw the smoke low into the lungs. Yes, oh my. And another for the nostrils, and a little something sweet for the mouth. And now we can begin at the beginning with the first time at Rashid's, when I stitched the blue smoke from pipe to blood to eye and out into the blue world. Thank you very much.
A memento of appreciation for Jeet Thayil. Now, Amitav Ghosh, who wrote River of Smoke, is not able to be with us today, but his publisher, Penguin India, is here to speak on his behalf. Please welcome once again, Cheki Sarkar. Cheki, having a good day at the races, I see. Welcome. Let's hear about it.
Amitav is thrilled to be on this short list and sends his regrets for not being here. River of Smoke, I mean, there's so much to say about it, but the simplest thing I think would be to say that I think the Ibis trilogy, which Amitav Ghosh is writing, River of Smoke being the second book in this trilogy, may well be the most ambitious and important literary novels of this last decade. And what Amitabh is trying to do with these books is, in some ways, rewrite history, but in some ways rewrite historical fiction, because what we get here is something utterly extraordinary, utterly unique. Sea of Poppies tells the story of the production of, thank you very much, I'm tinier than Jeet. So I've been tiptoeing. Sea of Poppies tells the story of the production of opium in India. It traces it from the Ganges to Calcutta. River of Smoke takes this story through to where the opium is sold in China, particularly in Canton. And as in with Sea of Poppies, River of Smoke is so large, so full of stories, so full of characters, so full of digressions, so full of extraordinary historical detail, that to tell us, to simplify the story and tell you what it is almost kind of, it's to pick a thread out of an extraordinary and a beautiful Persian carpet. It's been called a cabinet of curiosities, which is a wonderful way to describe it, but makes this epic and extraordinary novel almost seem too slight, too whimsical, because what Amitabh is doing is something much more ambitious. Very simply, if I had to kind of simplify this book, it tells the story of an opium trader, a Parsi merchant called Behram Modi, who's made a killing trading opium to China. And as the story starts, he decides to go in for the biggest killing yet. He takes the largest shipment of opium he's ever traded, and he gets his own ship, and he decides to go to Canton. But at the very moment that he lands in Canton, what you're beginning to get in China is that the Chinese government, the authorities, are beginning to crack down on opium addiction, which has become a kind of fever that's taken a hold of China. And suddenly his shipment in the ship is stranded, and the fortune that Behram is going to make seems just a wisp of smoke. And this is the premise on which the book is based, but as I said, there are too many characters, there are too many subplots, there's too much detail to do it justice. It is an extraordinary book, and this trilogy is something utterly unique. I don't think we'll ever quite see anything like it.
Surina will present Chiki with a memento for Amitav. A big hand for Amitav. You know, all our writers seem to be very thoughtful writers. Like Gloria Swanson, the American actress, who said, "I've given my memoirs far more thought than any of my marriages. After all, you can't divorce a book." And that's certainly something to keep in mind. And do keep in mind what Anatole France said. He said, "Never lend books, as no one ever returns them. The only books I have in my library are books that other folks lent me." Writers would prefer that you were more like the Dutch theologian Erasmus, who said, when I get a little money, I buy books. If any is left, I buy food and clothes. On that happy note, I'd like to call on stage a legendary Indian film star, an adored actress, a goodwill ambassador for the United Nations, a wonderful human being, our chief guest today, Sharmila Tagore. Please come on stage, ma'am. Please say a few words to us on this wonderful occasion.
It's wonderful to be here today, and it's my first visit to this Jaipur Film Literary Festival, CICIT Film, and I really enjoyed every moment of it, and I'm so glad I'm here today, and I want to congratulate the Narula family for instituting this DSC award. And I think it's on the third year today, yes? Third or the fourth year? And I think it's wonderful. And my heartiest congratulations to all the nominees, because I believe, and when I've been hearing all of you, I can see that you have expressed all the concerns that that it's so diverse and yet there's so much commonality, and I believe it's been a very, very close contest, and the juries have been really exercised over choosing the right one, and I think I won't keep you too long from finding out who that wonderful writer is. And many, many congratulations to all the nominees once more. And what I find is so wonderful that while you're writing about South Asian literature, you don't really have to be of South Asian origin, isn't that right? So I think that's quite unique about this, this particular award, this particular prize. So well done, and I wish you all the best, and I hope your this enterprise goes from strength to strength, and we get many more wonderful books and get to appreciate them. Thank you very much.
Please stay on stage with us, ma'am. I'd like to invite on stage a remarkable woman, a Rajasthani woman, a poor woman from a small conservative village, a woman whose sexual assault, personal trauma, years of public humiliation and legal injustice finally led to a landmark judgment by the Supreme Court that redefined women's rights in India, the Vishaka judgment. Please welcome Bhamari Devi. She will co-present the award along with our chief guest, Sharmila Tagore. A film was made on her story by the late Jagmohan Mundra called Bhavandar, and is also an inspirational story for all of us. Bhamari Devi ji, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगी?
सभी पंच साहिवान ने मारो राम राम, सब भाई बहन में इनका वो तो जाने को नहीं, पर स्टेज पे सब बैठे जाने सबने नारो राम राम। अरे यहाँ चाहे भाई गांव की औरत हो चाहे बाहर की औरत हो कोड़ा की भी हो, पर अंदरूनी की बातें सभी अगाड़ी ने जे किताबा में पूरी कहानी लिखनी चाहिए भाई। अंदरूनी की औरतां की बातें काई काई छे काई काई अंदरूनी सु उठरी छे, तो वह पूरी कहानी से जे लिखनी चाहिए, वहाँ एक भी छोड़नी न चाहिए। पूरी गांव की औरत हो चाहे शहर की औरत हो, पर उन्हें छोड़ना न चाहिए।
She said she knows she's here at the book festival and you all are writing stories, and she feels that all of you should remember that there are women in the villages and you should write the stories that they have to tell from inside. So listen to their stories and write about it. That's what she said.
Now for the big moment. Who will be the winner today? To announce the winner of the DSC Prize for South Asian Literature, I call on the chairman of the jury, Mr. Sachidanandan, to do the honors. Chairman, sir.
I congratulate all the finalists on behalf of the members of the jury. And as it was said here, it was absolutely not an easy task to find a winner. And we are not sure that we have still found a winner, because we had such wonderful discussions on each of the books, because all of them seem to deserve the prize. But unfortunately, we have only one prize. And the DSC prize for 2013 goes to Narcopolis by Jeet Thai. Thank you.
Jeet Thai wins this year's DSC prize for Narcopolis. It's obviously a popular award, And our congratulations to him. Jeet, please come on stage for the presentation by our chief guest, Sharmila Tagore and Bhavani Devi. Huge congratulations. A huge congratulations. I hope our winner today is not at a loss for words, because we would dearly love to hear from him at this moment, to know what he's thinking, to know what he's feeling. So Jeet, when the photographers give you a moment, please join us here and share your thoughts and feelings at this very wonderful, highly deserved moment of acclaim in your career and the years of acclaim that go with the award. Jeet, please step forward. Once again, huge congrats.
Thank you. What's going through my mind is finally, because I've been shortlisted 4 times and never won anything, so it's a very nice thing to win something. And it's a wonderful thing to win this prize because it's an Indian prize, even though it is wide and it looks at South Asia. It is an Indian prize because the money is Indian, and and it's a substantial amount of money compared with any prize anywhere. And writers who tell you money doesn't matter, don't believe them, they're lying. Money matters because we don't have jobs and we have bills to pay, so it's a very important thing. And for me particularly, it's important because when the book was first published in India, the reviews were almost uniformly negative. So it means something to me to win a prize in the country I call home and the country I live in. I would like to say that it really was a tremendously strong shortlist this year. Every book on the list was worthy of winning this prize. But most of all, I'd like to dedicate my prize to Jamil Ahmed, with whom I've become friends. And thank you all so much.
Jeet is shaking hands with the jury and thanking them for their wisdom. Although we know there are so many deserving novels and such wonderful novels that have been written this year that it must be extremely difficult for them to choose. Books are such a special thing. As Thomas Carlyle once said, all that mankind has done, thought, gained, or been, it is lying as in magic preservation in the pages of books. And today, even with the spread of the internet, even as the ways of reading books are evolving, the influence of books has never been greater. And those who write about South Asia have ever-growing world audiences, and DSC remains committed to that. So a huge congratulations to this year's winner, Jeet Thayil, winner of the DSC Prize for South Asian Literature. We come to the end of today's ceremony with special thanks to Sanjay Roy, Shuli Sethi and Teamwork Productions for producing a landmark event. And we look forward to an ever greater future for all writers. For as they say, these days, the word processor is mightier than the sword. But don't throw away your pens, you always need them for autographs of dedicated and adoring readers. Thank you all, good night, and God bless you for being here.